Welcome back to Project 94 for another Diecast review here on the channel for the 2023 season of NASCAR Diecasts. Today, we're going to be looking at Mr. Ross Chastain, the Watermelon Man, and his 2023 Advent Health Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 number 1 for Trackhouse Racing. So here it is. We finally have the Advent Health car after months of waiting. Here it is, the Daytona 500 paint scheme. Of course, the primary paint scheme for Ross Chastain. It's a 360 of the box. And it's another chrome number diecast. As you guys can tell, that is a green chrome number 1 on the door. And it's going to be a really exciting diecast review. Ross Chastain, we've looked at his Kubota car before and his Wex car. And now we finally take a look at his Advent Health car. So without further ado, let's not waste any time. Let's get this thing out of the box and ready to review. Here we go. Here is Ross Chastain's number 1 Advent Health diecast out of the box. And I gotta say, clean paint scheme. I like this one. And this is a really big improvement over last year's paint scheme. Even though last year's paint scheme was already good, they managed to build on it and make it an even better scheme. I mean, that is really a big accomplishment. To take a paint scheme that was already good and to make it even better. What more than that can you ask for from a sponsor, man? That's just really cool. Man, I'm really digging this car. I'm not a Ross Chastain big fan of his, obviously, but, you know, his paint schemes are pretty cool. Trackhouse has pretty awesome schemes, so gotta give him credit where credit is due. Got number 1 right there, Trackhouse Racing. Of course, got the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 front end to this thing. You have Advent Health with the hood vents right there. You have Ross Chastain. Then you have Sunoco, Goodyear in yellow, the yellow Goodyear wheels with the gray rims this time around, and most of them have gray rims. You have NASCAR Cup Series, the 75th anniversary logo for NASCAR. You have number 1 in that green chrome color. Ross Chastain, Siemens, Chevrolet, Moose, and Trackhouse. Advent Health slanted on the door. You have Jockey. Ross Chastain, Siemens, beamoose.org, Worldwide Express, and Kubota, which both got diecasts, and Jockey was a cool diecast as well. We've looked at that one before. Hopefully we get the Beamoose car. On the back of this thing, you have Quaker State, which is the official oil supplier for Trackhouse. That's Chevrolet, Advent Health, number 1, and a pretty bad black paint chip right there. Of course, you have Camaro ZL1 with the white spoiler. Very refreshing to see a white spoiler instead of a black spoiler. Really cool. It flows with it, too. I love the way the white spoiler looks on this thing. That thing looks awesome, man. Of course, the Biofuel logo right there. Then, of course, you have the Advent Health. Another thing about the spoiler, you still see the pop rivets, even though it's a colored spoiler, which I really like. You have Advent Health on the deck lid, Ross Chastain's name on the back window, and Advent Health on the roof with the green number 1. So they spray painted this car white. Gave it a white spoiler, which I gave them credit for. It looks nice. Black roof rails and a black splitter. Starting out with the numbers, on the roof you have a black shadow, a thin black outline, a white outline, and a lime green number fill-in. Of course, the iconic slash to the number 1. On the door, it looks to be the same number 1, but you do have a... This time around, you're going to have the blue shadow to it. Then you're going to have the black. A bolder white outline, and the green chrome number. I mean, just look at how that green number 1 shines. It's really messing. Look at how it's really messing with the camera. Look at that shine reflection. Look at that. Everything is turning green. That is just really cool, that chrome number. I know it's a really thin number because the number 1 is naturally a thin number. It's not really thick, but man, you're going to notice it when you look at it. The green chrome number, which is cool to see colored in chrome numbers, not just a silver chrome, which is really nice. Starting out on the front of this thing, around the OEM details, underneath the skinny grille, you're going to have the light blue, highlighting a blue shade right there. It's dark blue, but towards the middle, it fades, gradient fade shades into the light blue, which is really nice. Then you're going to have the light green, a bit of light green. You're going to have a blue triangle, like whisker on the car almost on both sides. The lower portion of it is going to have a day glow, gradient fade from the light blue to the dark blue. Then you're going to have a bit of yellow. And then behind the Sunoco logo, you have a bit of another triangle right there underneath the Sunoco. It's going to be blue. And it also kind of has a bit of a gradient to it as well, it looks like. But yeah, the main stripe with the gradient are going to be these two fangs in the front, which this thing looks like a Ganassi paint scheme. Almost like the Credit One bank scheme from Kyle Larson from a few years ago. Looking at it from the side, you have a really sharp, jagged edge paint scheme. Like, just the way it just spikes everywhere, literally slashes through the front wheel well, swoops up into the driver's seat right there. Got the dark blue, the darker shade of blue. That's going to wrap over the bit of light green, and the almost looks like a petty blue, a petty light blue right there, which is odd to see on the Trackhouse, but it matches the sponsor though. Going to have that bit of a jagged edge triangular spike right there, swooping over the top of the number one. Then you're going to have a bit of the white spike in right there. The blue is going to continue across the side with a really, really advanced gradient finish to those decals. Of course, you have the light blue spike right there. You're going to have that gradient fade going from the lighter blue to the darker blue, almost to a dark greenish color. Very ocean-like. Of course, you're going to have some more of the gradient spiking right there. You're going to have the green, a bit of the green behind the light blue spike. Some of the blue is going to be right there still behind the jockey. You're going to have the black side of the underbody. And right there, the coolest part of this thing is a bit of green from the watermelon and red with the seeds, because that is a detailed watermelon. So it's actually matching the driver of Ross Chastain. They literally could have easily painted that just white or just a generic one of the blue colors. But no, they actually incorporated his personality, his persona into the paint scheme. And you have the watermelon, piece of the watermelon right there, which is really cool to see it. I love that. That's so cool to have on that car. It adds to it. You know, Ross Chastain's watermelon, man, you got to have some watermelon detailing. You know, let's have some of those colors on the car. I know it's not all over the car like his truck was, but man, a tiny little detail like that for an individual driver goes a long way. And of course, the paint scheme is really going to end at the back bumper, but at the rear quarter panel, you're going to have some of that light blue and dark greenish gradient fades right there, and that spiky triangular form. Then underneath it, you're going to have the light blue, or that darkish blue. It's like an odd kind of blue. It's not like a light blue, but it's not a dark blue either. It's sort of in the middle. Once again, kind of like the Allegiant car, but just slightly different for this paint scheme. And it's going to end all at the back. So the lower portion of the bumper is going to be painted blue, and that blue is going to follow the bumper line. It doesn't go further than the bumper itself. As you guys can tell, the upper section of the bumper is just going to be all white where the taillights are, and the lower section is going to be that complete blue color. And of course, the final detail I'm going to point out about this diecast is all the roof pillars, pretty much the entire roof, all the pillars, and everything on the top of the car is that mid blue. I don't have like a good, like, almost turquoise. I don't know if turquoise is the right word to use, but it's sort of like that, you know, that same blue color that was used on the side, or the primary version of it. It's going to be all on the roof here with the green number. And that is it for Ross Chastain and his Advent Health 2023 livery, or paint scheme, I should say. Really, really cool diecast. I love how, you know, he's the Ross Chastain watermelon guy. And so they added some of his persona. Having his persona in mind, you have the watermelon there. That's probably my favorite detail. The watermelon and the green chrome number honestly make this diecast for me. It is so cool. I like how there's a bit more of the color this year. It was a little more white. I mean, both of them were pretty white, but I gotta say, between last year's and this year's, probably this year's, probably because of like the green chrome number and like just the sharper looking design. You know, it's really nice. I mean, all the Trackhouse cars have been nice. Honestly, with Advent Health, you know, it's consistently good paint schemes. You don't have to go further than that when you're comparing schemes. Just every year, they're consistently good. It's not like Ally, where one year their scheme is trash, and then the next year their paint scheme is, you know, super excellent, and the next year is trash. No, Advent Health is always consistent with how good their paint schemes are, and I can always appreciate that from sponsors in NASCAR. So here's the front of the car right here. Here's the hood. Here's the right side. Here's the close-up of the right side. Here's the right side of this thing. I gotta say, though, the Advent Health slanted like that looks pretty cool. Even though they used most of the, you know, just mostly design they were relying on to cover up this door because of the new number placement. But man, if you can design a paint scheme that accommodates the number placement kudos to you. And of course, you got a little weird Goodyear fold on the Goodyear logo. That's just classic lino. But here's the car. The right side of it. Here's the back with that beautiful white spoiler. My gosh, I love that. That's the white spoiler. White spoiler in the back. Here's the deck lid. Here's the roof. Here's the left side of this thing, which is the same as the right side. And here's the underbody of this 2023 Camaro ZL1. And that's going to be it for Ross Chastain's 2023 Advent Health Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 for Trackhouse Racing. Very cool diecast, highly recommended. And of course, if you're doing the stop motion series, you got to have the new #1 for this year. But yeah, really cool diecast. I love the paint scheme of it. Gives me Ganassi vibes. I mean, that's technically what they are, right? The new version of Ganassi. But nonetheless, guys, that has been the review of Ross Chastain's 2023 Advent Health #1 car for Trackhouse Racing, the primary scheme. Let us know what you guys think about this diecast in the comments down below. And honestly, guys, definitely, these Trackhouse cars are some of the coolest paint schemes. You know, all the paint schemes are really nice. But I gotta say, for the Chevy camp, Trackhouse has been knocking it out of the park. Comment, like, and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next diecast review. And always remember to make sure you know what you're doing when you're putting decals on your diecasts.